Okay, Kevin Mbaki, welcome to the people of Utah.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me. I know it's been a while since we've tried to make something work, and I know you came to St. George the other time, and we couldn't
Yeah,
get together. But yeah,
that's right.
happy to be on your podcast.
Of course, bro. Awesome. So, why don't you start by telling me a little bit about yourself? Just a big overview.
Right, Kevin Mbaki from South Africa, Cape Town. Um, been in the U.S. for about it's been over 5 years now. Living city to city, going to Southern Utah University, which I believe you also went to for
Mm-hmm.
a semester or two. I remember we were in the science building and we talking about Erling Haaland and how. Do you remember that?
Yeah, dude. I remember how I first. It was so funny because there was like that room where they got the video games or whatever
Uh huh.
going on,
Uh huh.
and I think played FIFA with you once, and I'm like just like my first day of college, and so I'm like, oh, this guy's cool. Let me get his number. And then like saw you a couple times, and then randomly like a year later after I left SUU or whatever, we both went and did sales for the
I
same company,
know.
and I'm like, oh,
Oh,
Kevin.
I remember you.
Yeah, that was so fun, dude.
That was crazy. Well, yeah. Anyway. Yeah. SEU. I'm a cybersecurity major with a minor in computer science. Let's see. I'm not a huge fan of school.
Yeah.
um, I've been I've been in school for 5 years altogether, but I took a year off, so 4 years really, just to work. And my wife, we just gave birth to a daughter in December.
Huge. Congrats.
Nice, thank you. So I had to take time off of school just to work, save up money and stuff. It's not easy trying to raise a family, but
Sure.
we're here. Yeah. My hobbies. I've been watching a lot of anime. Like, I know you know that, but one that just the second season just ended of Solo Leveling. Have you heard of Solo Leveling?
I've only heard of it because of you. It's like on YouTube only, right?
Well, no, you can get it on Crunchy. You can watch it on Crunchyroll.
Okay. But like, but I saw you posting how you're mad that they're not dropping another season for like 2 more years or
Yeah.
something.
So I actually found out that there was an April Fool's joke.
Oh, good for
Yeah,
you. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
My sister had to tell me because there was another slide that I didn't see, and she was like, no, that's it's not true. It's actually coming back next year. And oh, sick, dude. Well, that's great. Yeah, I watch anime. I watch a lot of movies, and I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that, bro. Like, you are one of the biggest movie critics I've ever met, dude. Because I know you have that Letterboxd app that tracks it tracks like the amount of movies you watch, and you put it in there, and I've seen you like screenshot some of your reviews and stuff. Why don't you tell me your top couple of movies of all time, and then also like some of the worst movies you've seen recently? I want to
Okay.
know which ones you hate and
No,
like.
top of my mind, worst movie I've seen recently is Heretic.
Okay.
It's the one with the sister missionaries, and I think it's what is Hugh Hanks some what is his name, that actor, Grant, Hugh Grant.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in there and he was the antagonist, and these sister missionaries who in real life they used to be members of the church, and for some reason they departed the faith. But yeah, that movie was horrible. Not only did they try to talk crap about the church, but about religion in general, but the existence of a supreme being. So I hated the movie. I mean,
Sure.
I knew it was really bad, but I just had to watch so I can have an opinion.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's the worst I've seen recently, and the best I've seen recently is, in fact, I watched this last week. What was it called? 3 days. The next 3 days, it's I'm a huge Russell Crowe guy,
Okay.
and basically this movie was his wife was accused of murdering someone, and obviously it wasn't true, and so all the evidence points to her, being the murderer, and he met with lawyers and stuff, and they were like, yeah, there's no way, like all the evidence, like her fingerprint was on the murder weapon, and like there's no way we can, get her out of this. She'll be in prison for a long time. So he devised a plan to get her out of prison, and this whole time he's trying to like. He met with this guy that had previously escaped like from multiple prisons, like 7 prisons,
Okay.
and the guy is one of my other favorites, Liam Nielsen. Liam Neeson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and he met with him. Apparently, he just gave him some, advice like, yeah, you gotta have money. You gotta create fake passports, and because you gotta run. You can't stay in the U.S. if you bust out of prison. Yeah, so the whole movie is just trying to, get money, and he had to do things that he thought he'd never do. He killed someone just to get money. And long story short, at the end, he and his wife and his, I think, between 8 to 10 year old kid or son, they were able to escape and then went to a far country. I can't even remember. Caracas is what it is called. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, that's one of the movies I've seen recently.
One that you like, that one.
Yeah, I like
Okay.
I like those kind of stories. It just keeps me glued to the TV and not super bored. But
Yeah. That's sick, dude. Okay. So, switching gears a little bit, tell me a little bit about moving from Africa to here. You lived in South Africa your whole life, and then you made the move to Utah a couple of years ago. Tell me about all that.
yeah, super crazy story and long story, but I'll try and make it short. So my older brother Lawrence, shout out to Lawrence, by the way.
Yeah, man, I gotta get him on sometime. He's dope.
Yeah, so growing up his whole life, he's really into theater and music education, and as he was growing, he really had a strong desire to come to the U.S. to go to maybe the Yale School of Drama or Juilliard School of Music or whatever. And fast forward to his mission, he had about 6 months left of his mission, and my parents had saved up money to be able to cover tuition and stuff like that. And my parents were like, okay, like we got permission from he got permission from his mission president to look at websites into schools and stuff. And my parents were doing the same back home. And my parents were like, yeah, the application window is about to close. You need to make a decision, blah, blah, blah. And Lawrence, he had a list. And if I remember correctly, I don't remember everything on the list, but I know UCLA was there, super expensive. What else was there? All these big name school, and SU was not even, he had never heard about SU, right? And then he got a new companion, and so P-Day is Monday, right?
Yep.
So and he emails my parents every Monday, and during the week, he found out that his companion is from Kanab, which is a small city north of Cedar. I don't know how far away, 40 miles or so.
The Kanab Cowboys. Oh, yeah.
Yep, exactly. And he obviously, his companion knew that he was looking into schools and stuff. And he was like, hey, why don't you go to SU? He's like, SU what now? SU, I'm going there. And then my brother was, oh, I've never heard of that school. And he had prayed about it and added SU to the list. And then one morning he sat down during his personal studies, and he's like, hey, Heavenly Father, guide me into what school out of these schools that are written down. And as he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was SU. He had a huge list, and I'm pretty sure SU was like at the bottom of his list because he had never heard of that school before. And the only thing he saw when he opened his eyes was SU. At the same time, during that week, my dad, as he was working on his computer, an SU ad popped up on his computer. And then he clicked the link, which you should never do as a cybersecurity major. He clicked on the link and he went and read about SU, and he read about the Shakespeare program that happens every summer.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, wow, this is really good. Like, let me email Lawrence, like, ask him, hey, have you heard of SU? And at the same time, Lawrence is like, hey, I need to tell my parents, have they heard of SU?
No way. Oh, I get it now. So independently, your dad and Lawrence both discovered SUU.
Yeah,
on their own without.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, that's how Lawrence is really adamant about it. The Lord brought me here to the U.S., let alone Cedar City.
Dude, I think Lawrence has got like the most school spirit of anyone I've ever met at SUU, dude. He posts about the T-Birds like constantly, and I'm like, dude, good for him, bro. He's like a diehard fan. I know why, some of the background behind it. That's cool.
Yeah, he is, and you cannot talk trash about SU. Like, SU's football team is probably the trashiest team I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
But if you try and tell Lawrence that the team is trash, he will try to fight you. That's how much of a school spirit he has. But anyway, back to the story. So yeah, on that Monday, they emailed each other and they saw each other's emails, and like, no way, I just found out about SU from my companion, and you guys found out about SU here, and like, yeah, this is the school I want to go to. Yeah. Now, the way I'm involved in this, so I played for a soccer academy back home, and it was called Jean-Marc Ethier Academy. And before I left on my mission, they had partnerships with Liverpool from England, and now and then every year they'll send players to go try out for the academies there. And my goal was to, after mission, to go and play professional soccer. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that, but you're a Chelsea fan, so what's up with the Liverpool connection?
Well, I didn't choose that.
Okay.
It was just, you know, they.
Oh, no, so were you a Chelsea fan before this academy?
Yeah, I've always been a Chelsea fan.
I
Yeah.
get you. Okay.
I've always been a Chelsea fan, and anything that would get me into.
Sure. No. That's you're not gonna say, oh, I'm not gonna be a pro soccer player unless it's Chelsea. Like, come on, man. Yeah,
Exactly,
no, I get it. So you were Chelsea before the Liverpool connection. Okay.
Right.
So I didn't know that was your plan. That's cool.
Yeah, that's always been my plan, to play professionally. But then after my mission, so my brother was already in the US at this point. I was trying to decide, do I carry on with my personal goals and dreams, or do I carry on with my personal dreams and goals and be alone in England, or can give that up and, you know, go be with my brother? Obviously, family comes first, and I chose to come to SU as well. And after that, my whole family came, and my dad is pursuing a PhD in education, and my whole family is here, and I met my lovely wife, and now we have a daughter. So yeah.
So that was the right move. So that's crazy. So you're all living in South Africa for a long, long time, and suddenly Lawrence comes out to SUU. You follow, and everybody follows. Your dad, your
Right.
mom, your siblings, everybody's here in Cedar City, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, man. That's
Yeah,
way
it's
cool.
fantastic. And we try, every time we tell the story, we try to link it to Lawrence and having had that revelation.
Yes.
And that's what brought us here. Or else we wouldn't have ever heard of SEU or Cedar City.
Right. That's way cool, man. You know what's funny? I probably told you this once before, but on my mission, there was a senior couple who came to visit doing some humanitarian stuff, and I was in the Caribbean. And
Barbados, right? Was it?
yeah, Barbados. And actually, this story did happen on Barbados, too.
Wow.
And everybody's black, right? But they got this South African couple who's white. And I understand, I didn't know this at the time, but in South Africa, there's a lot of mixed race, right? There's a lot of white and black people in South America.
In fact, we're actually known as the
Rainbow Nation.
Yep,
Yes, that's what I'm getting. So that these people, they're like, hello everyone, we are from South Africa. and the local members were like, no, you're not, you're white. Like, where are you really from? They're like, we're African. We're from South Africa. They're like, no, you're not.
The accent.
Yeah, I know. They're like, you're from England or something. They're like, no, we're called the Rainbow Nation. Like Nelson Mandela. Like we're all, we're South African. They're like, no, you're not. They're like laughing at them. So there's like a group of like 50 members laughing at these senior missionaries trying to tell them that they're from Africa. And everybody else is like, no, you're not, because you're not black. And I don't think they ended up ever like agreeing. They're like, okay, well, we got to move on with our presentation anyway. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's so funny.
That's the funniest story. Now that you mentioned it, I think you have told me, because I remember when we were doing sales, we drove out to area multiple times.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I remember you telling me some kind of story like this.
I'm sure we talked about that, dude. Sales is so crazy, dude. That was some fun days on the doors.
It was, yeah. Well, I'll let you know. Do you know I'm still in sales, but I'm doing a different kind of sales?
Yeah, I wanted you to get into that. So I know you went through this program called Sales Dojo. I want you to
Shout
check
out to
that.
Jaren. Let's go.
Yeah, I follow him on Instagram just because of your connection. He seems like a cool guy. I've never met him, but
It's really cool, yeah.
so he's got that going on, and then that got you into an industry, and you're doing like tech sales or something like that. Tell me about how all that went down.
Yeah, let's see. So, another crazy story. So, I had a companion on my mission. His name is Jed Johnson. I don't know if you know him. But this day, he just posted on Instagram saying, hey, if you want to break into tech sales, follow this website or link. My friend, owns this company. And I was like, oh, well, I'll click on it, just find out. And then I see the program and what they offer to people. It's basically a sales development representative training course.
Yeah, SDR.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a 4-week course. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty interesting. And I read the reviews and how most people that start out, they make $70K a year. In less than a year, they can promote to become account executive and make over $160K a year. I was like, wow, that sounds awesome. I know I'm in tech right now. That's what I'm studying. I'm studying cybersecurity and computer science.
That's true. You know tech. You've done sales.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And I wouldn't say, at first, I was like, sales is not my passion. I did it for the money because I was paying international student tuition, stuff like that. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try this out. I paid $500 up front to take the course. And a few months later, this was like August of 2024. I got hired at Plural Side. Yeah, and I've been working there ever since. It's been great. And if you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see I'm always hitting quota, and I'm making really good money too. And Sales Dojo is actually making a new training course of account executives that I'm taking.
Cool.
Here in a few weeks. So yeah, it's been awesome.
That's great, man. That's great to know. Yeah, I've seen you crushing it out there. Dude, I might need to do some sales because my industry is brutal with my degree.
Aren't you doing like mathematical
bioinformatics, so like biology and computer programming, which is cool and stuff, but the industry is just like nuts right now. Everyone I've talked to is like, bro, I feel so like I've been setting up LinkedIn interviews with people and stuff and getting their advice and stuff. You know, people who are in a spot that I want to be in, and they're like, oh, dude, I feel so bad for you, dude. The industry sucks right now. Like, blah, 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 this and that. And also because, like, with Trump and Doge, that they're cutting a lot of funding for research and stuff. And so that's making it hard for the industry, and they're kind of scared to hire people. And so, anyway, Kevin, I also want to get your thoughts on this. You know, growing up in South Africa your whole life, then making the move to Utah when you were how old?
I came in 2019. I think I would have been 22.
22, okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of black people in South Africa. Not a lot of black people in Utah, especially in like southern Utah.
In my ward right now, I'm the only. In fact, in my stake, I'm the only black person.
Do you think there's any I bet there's probably a ton of kids actually who have never met you're the first black person they've ever met.
Yeah, and it's actually crazy. Let's see. So my wife's cousin, somewhere along those lines, and she was saying that like her kids, because being born and raised in Utah, when they first saw me, it was like, oh, you look different than I do.
Yeah.
Like what the freak? What's happening here? And yeah, we had, it was at a family reunion, and we talked about. She was like, you know, I'm gonna move my kids to, or I'm thinking of moving to Florida. You know, just because I feel like there's a variety of races. I've never been to Florida. That's just what she said.
Yeah.
There's a variety of people, and I just want my kids to grow in an environment where, you know, there's variety, and they're not, so that they're used to other cultures. You know, they're not just used to the, you know, the Utah
bubble.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get you.
So yeah, for me, I haven't really thought about this much, just because it's whatever to me. I'm not a huge I don't really. How can I say this? Yeah, I am a minority, but I don't feel like I'm weak or less than just because I'm a minority. So I don't think about it.
Sure. How about I don't know, do you think it's been a challenge for you being a minority in Utah? Like, I imagine it wasn't really much of a challenge for you in Africa, but making the jump to Utah, did it pose any new challenges, interactions with people, that kind of thing?
That's a good question, James. I wouldn't say it caused any problems. It caused new experiences for sure. For example, if a lot of people, in fact, they ask me, "Oh, your English is so good. Like, how long have you been in the United States?" I'm like, "I've been here for like 3 years." And they're like, "Oh, wow, and you learn English that fast?" I'm like, "Whoa, hold on a second. If you know anything about South Africa, we have 12, in fact, now 13 languages, and English is one of them." And then I don't want to make people feel stupid just because they don't know.
Sure.
So I try to be like, yeah, I've spoken English my whole life. So it's not like I came here and then started learning English. Just a few of those interactions with people that I feel like, it's not that I was offended by them. It's just that,
an educational opportunity.
Right, exactly. And it's like, you assume that just because someone is from Africa, they don't know English, I ask myself that in my brain, but I don't really ask them because I don't want to confront them and be like, hey, you're racist,
Well, there's a lot of countries in Africa where they're like the official language is English, right?
Right.
There's like Ghana,
Nigeria, Zimbabwe. I can go on and so forth.
Yeah. Okay. So what about this? I know you're a very devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints.
Mm-hmm.
With the history of the church and black people for a long time not being able to receive the priesthood, how has that influenced your testimony? How has that been something you've had to deal with in your life?
That's another good question, James. Just keep them coming. I love good questions.
Yeah, man.
So, I served my mission in Uganda, which is also an English-speaking African country. And I'm sure you got this all the time too. Like when people find out about blacks not being able to receive the priesthood, blah, 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 they ask questions, right? Like as a missionary, you're supposed to know all these questions, or know all these answers. So for me, I wouldn't say it has affected my testimony at all, just because I understand the church has to keep or has to obey the laws of the land, right? And in many countries of, in South Africa as well, we had apartheid, which, segregation and, between races and stuff. And in the United States, it was the same around that time too, where a lot of blacks weren't allowed to, do anything or be in the same room as white people. And not saying that that was obviously a good thing, but the church had to obey the rules of the land, and the church in its own cannot make these rules that pertain to the whole country. And it's actually a good learning opportunity or a teaching opportunity for me when people ask me that. And I tell them, if you go through all the Doctrine and Covenants, or all of Scripture for that matter, nowhere you'll see a revelation given from God to Joseph Smith or whoever about blacks not being allowed to get the priesthood. In fact, as soon as the church was organized, I think it was a few months after April in 1830, Joseph Smith himself ordained a guy named Elijah Abel to the priesthood, who was black, and a few more others after that. That just shows, to me that, okay, it wasn't like God saying, oh yeah, you can't give, the priesthood to black people. And because, you've heard of the scripture, all are alike, born and free, white and black, or male and female, whatever. So that's how God sees us. God is not a respecter of persons. And that's just how I look at it. And I trust that, that's what God is. God is not going to go away from his word. Yeah, the church may bring in some policies just because they have to be, adherent to the laws of the land. But at the same time, I also know, no, revelation is real, that the gospel is true. So I don't really let that taint my view of the church. Did that make sense?
Yeah, 100%, man. I love that. That's a really good, interesting perspective. I appreciate.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so now that you've been in Utah for a few years, tell me your favorite thing and your least favorite thing about Utah.
My wife and I, we really love Utah. She's not from Utah. She's from Colorado.
Cool.
We met at SEU, and I think we have both decided that we'll live in Utah for a long time. What I like about Utah, obviously the mountains, reminds me of home. Cape Town is literally around mountains. I don't know if you've heard of Table Mountain. It's really
Never.
cool. One day you should go. It's awesome. It's just a mountain that's really flat at the top, so that's why it's called Table Mountain.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, I love the mountains here in Utah. I love the people, honestly. I know a lot of people. For example, the education system in the U.S. don't really teach a lot about other countries or other countries' histories, only that pertains to the U.S. So I feel like a lot of people don't really know a lot about, other countries or other continents. So I think that's what I think I don't like about Utah is, besides the people being awesome, welcoming, friendly, it's also this part of like, okay, they assume, just because this person is from Africa, doesn't know how to speak English, or this person, that's what I'll say as far as what I like and don't like about Utah.
Okay, I love that. What's the best place you've ever been to in Utah?
It's probably the Cedar City Temple.
All right.
No, just kidding. Best place I've been in Utah, there's this hike we went to. It's in St. George. Snow Canyon. Really pretty. And I think the what is it called? Lava caves?
Lava hot springs?
I don't know. I don't think I've never been to any hot springs in St. George.
Oh, okay.
It's lava. It's inside a cave, right? And It's really beautiful inside. I would say that's the best place I've been in Utah.
Next time I'm down there, you gotta tell me that. I'd never heard of that. That's sick.
Yeah, I was just, invited to go hiking. I'm like, okay, I'll go hiking. And yeah, I found out about it.
That's one of the cool things about Southern Utah, dude. Southern Utah's got way cool outdoor.
Yeah.
I mean, all of Utah has cool outdoor stuff. But Southern Utah is very different, interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
How about favorite place you've eaten in Utah?
Okay, are we talking about fast food or sit down?
Give me both. That's a great question. Give me a good point. Give me both.
Okay, fast food, Raising Cane's by far.
Yes, dude. Okay.
Like whenever we go because Cedar City doesn't have Raising Cane's, neither does St. George. So
they don't. Really?
They don't. Yeah, they really don't. And so whenever we go to anywhere that has Raising Cane's, we get Raising Cane's.
so this weekend
we'll probably get Raising Cane's.
That's what I'm
weekend.
talking about.
Yeah, so Raising Cane's fast food and sit down place, Texas Roadhouse.
Oh,
by
love that,
far.
dude. That's great. That's a great take because I'm in the same boat. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I'm like, I guess I'm not that classy because those are the kind of places I love. But okay, it's good to hear from a foodie like you, bro. All right.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
So I guess all things considered, you said you do like living in Utah, right? And you do
Yeah.
want to raise your family here.
For sure. Yeah.
And why do you think that Utah would be a good place for you to raise your family?
Good question. I want to go against the norm, like, because I feel like there's this stigma against, Utahns, like, especially up here. I don't think it's as big down there in City or around St. George, but up here, like, northern Utah,
Yeah.
I feel like there's this, like, connotation of, oh, yeah, these Utah people, these church members, they think they're so cool, they think they're so better than everyone, and they're so ignorant. And I just want to prove that wrong. I want to prove that, you can be born and raised in Utah and still not be holier than thou and not be as ignorant as, yeah, that's the main reason why I would want to raise my kids here, just because I want to show people or prove to people that just because you're born in Utah, it doesn't mean you're all bad. There's really, really good people here and people that have good hearts and are not constantly trying to, point fingers like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, oh, yeah, you should have been doing this. The Book of Mormon doesn't, like, those kind of things.
I get you. It's great. Kevin, another thing I want people to know about you is your pet peeves. What are some of your biggest pet peeves, bro?
Number one is bad drivers. No, honestly, James, like my wife will tell you, I think I'm a pretty patient person,
Yeah, I'd say.
but I have terrible road. Well, terrible is so extreme, but I have road rage. Like even driving up here today, this person, she was on the right lane, and obviously I'm passing her on the left, and as I was passing her, she was trying to move over to my lane, and then I slammed on my brakes, obviously, because I didn't want her to hit me. And then when I sped up again, I saw her on the phone. She was literally
Oh, wow. So she drifted into your lane because she was distracted?
exactly.
Jeez.
And I'm like, if I could like, sometimes I want to like throw a middle finger, but that's so bad. But yeah, I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves ever is like terrible drivers. And I've lived in so many countries and so many cities. I would say Utah is up there as far as bad drivers. The only state that takes the cake is Kentucky. Kentucky is terrible.
Interesting. I never lived in Kentucky. I think that was like after I quit sales. You lived in Kentucky.
Yeah, I think
wild.
that's I would say that's my number one pet peeve.
Dude, and the driving, man, that's crazy too. Because there's negligence like that lady, right? Which there's plenty of. But dude, there's also just like straight up like not understanding. I don't know, spatial awareness, rules of the road,
No,
dude. Like,
I think spatial awareness is a huge thing, especially if you're driving a big truck. You gotta know how wide your truck goes and how long it is, so
Sure.
you can make the necessary adjustments. But yeah, and people not using the signals.
yes, dude, it's like, dude, you can operate this iPhone 15 really well, but you haven't figured out how to use a blinker. Like, what are we talking about, bro?
Right.
Well, and also like, there's times where I'm keeping a good safe distance and someone squeezes in there. I'm like, all right. So
Yeah, now I have to slam on my brake.
I gotta slow down, create a safe distance. So I'm like, dude, like my definition of a reasonable distance, I think is different than most people, I guess, because everyone's just squishing in that spot. And even when I'm like in the fast lane, that's another thing too, is I might be in the fast lane and I'm staying close to someone because that's kind of how the fast lane works, and there might be 3 or 4 of us in a row. There's some guy in the front who's clogging the fast lane. We're all tight, and some guy behind me gets mad and tries to go around me and take my spot. Like, no, like I'm leaving a little bit of a spot, but like not like just to be safe. Like I'm not blocking this lane, dude. There's a guy 4 cars up blocking the lane. It's not me. I'm just leaving a little space to be safe. Like,
and that makes me so mad that I have to slow down just to make sure they can clear the gap and not hit my car in front of my car. So I slow down a little bit because I can see in my mirror that they're coming up fast, and I know they're gonna try to take this spot. So I just slam the brakes.
That's the other thing, is being able to predict people's movements. I feel like that's I don't know that what's the word? I don't know. But being able to predict people's movements is something that everybody should be able to do.
Yeah.
Like you can see it when someone's getting on a freeway. You can tell when they're I don't know. I wish I could really sit down and analyze how I know. But I feel like a lot of us do know and should know when someone is going to change lanes soon.
Yeah.
And I'll do it all the time. I'm like, watch, this guy's trying to get over. He doesn't have his blinker on.
Yeah, but
I
can see the movement of the car.
I can tell for the last few minutes how he's going to try to do something like this. I don't know. It's so funny.
No, we can talk about this for a long time, James. But one other thing I'll say that really pisses me off is the blinker. Like, it's such a small thing to do when you're driving. Let me know, because, for example, if I don't have to stop because you're turning, let me know so that I don't have to stop.
Yes.
Right? But because your blinker is not on, so I've like, oh, maybe they're going straight, like, so I have to stop. So obviously we don't want an accident to happen. But like, if you had just turned on your blinkers, I would have not stopped and just carried on going, and you would have make your turn.
Exactly.
So yeah. But
That's a
anyway.
great point. Yeah, you got to communicate with other people. That's true, man. Well, Kevin, one last thing I want to ask you in closing is, what impact do you want to leave before you die?
Wow. And I think that's the best question you've asked me, James. So in the world of politics, right? I don't know if you listen to so my brothers and I had a podcast. And
Hot takes and pancakes.
Exactly. And it's just been down for a while just because we couldn't get equipments like you do here. But one thing that we talked about is being able to disagree and still be friends. In this polarizing world of politics and, oh, he's a liberal, or he's a Republican, or he's a Democrat, whatever, that doesn't matter, right? What matters is how you treat people. Were you kind to your neighbor? Did you love your neighbor? Did you serve your neighbor? And that's what I would like people to know. And that was the main reason why my brothers and I created that podcast. We can have differing ideas, or we can have, disagreements, but at the end of the day, do we love each other?
Love that, man. That's great. I think we need a lot more of that in the world. It's a great take. Well, Kevin, I appreciate you squeezing in time.
Thanks for having me.